Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ground Up Podcast. My name is Matt Walton, here with my co-host, Matt Uber. How you doing, Matt?
Doing fantastic. I am energetic. We've got so much going on with the business right now. I don't know what to do with myself. In between recordings, we just recorded another podcast just right before this. And in between recordings, I got quite a few different messages of some progress, of some big stuff that I haven't even had a chance to share with you yet, Matt. So everything's going great, man. How are you feeling today?
Good. Yeah. Lots of things going on in the business. Like you said, in between podcasts where I'm handling a bunch of other things going on with the other business that we have. But other than that, it's been going great. And I'm excited to talk to our next guest here that we have. It's Sunghee. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Good. Yeah, he runs a company called Erudio Bio, which is something we're going to learn about. He's going to teach us at like we're 5 years old because he explained a little bit beforehand. And we had no idea what he said, but for the most part, we want to make sure that we understand what you're coming from here. And can you let us know what you guys are doing in the medical space and break it down for us?
Right. So we are your AI biotech company. So high level, we are developing something called AI-powered multiplexing biomarker platform. So let me go higher level than low level, and probably the specific techniques we have and so on. So before delving into anything, do you know that last year, two things weird, not really weird, happened in Nobel Prize awards. First, non-physicist won Nobel Prize in physics, and the other guy was non-chemist won Nobel Prize in chemistry. Do you know who they were? Okay. So the first guy was Geoffrey Hinton, who's a kind of godfather of AI. And because of that contribution, he won this Nobel Prize in physics. And but the second guy is Demis Hassabis, who is CEO of Google DeepMind. And this DeepMind company wasn't Google DeepMind. It used to be just a DeepMind, British startup company, who developed AlphaGo, who beat World Go champion Isidol using AlphaGo. Do you guys remember AlphaGo?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's like for example, 1997, this Russian guy, the world chess champion, was beaten by IBM developed Deep Blue, right? But then this chess champion said, "I don't think a machine is ready to beat humans in chess." Then he was beaten, right?
Yeah.
2016, this world champion Go player, very Asian kind of chess type of thing, which is way more complicated than chess. So it was considered almost impossible for AI, or for that matter, machines, to win humans in the game of Go. And the world champion Isedol also had said in the interview, he said that, "I don't think machines are ready to beat humans in the game of Go." And it was beaten by this thing called AlphaGo, developed by Google, the DeepMind at that time. So that very same company was acquired by Google. Now it's a Google DeepMind. The CEO, Demis Hassabis, now 2022, he released something called AlphaFold. Now this thing, instead of playing Go, it insists that predicts virtually every proteins in the world, the 3D folding, 3D structure. So in 2024, they released in March AlphaFold 3, and the Nobel Prize committee could not help but give him Nobel Prize in chemistry, even though he wasn't a chemist.
Right.
So this means that AI is now finally ready for making lots of contributions in the areas of biology and medical and so on. Now, but the problem now is in the area of AI, not the symbolism, but connection is the meaning that the deep learning prevail. Deep learning won the game big times. Whatever AI algorithms, or software service, like ChatGPT or AlphaFold, AlphaGo, all those things were actually developed by using this thing called deep learning. But the problem with the deep learning is it's data hungry. So it requires lots and lots of data. Just like AlphaGo learned the algorithm using the history of 1,000 years of Go players' records, the AlphaFold, which predicts protein 3D folding, learned what human biochemists did for the longest time. So the thing is, there's lots of data we need, but there's scarce data in bio and medical. So for AI to do the right thing, for example, helpful for developing new drugs for Alzheimer or the cancers and so on, we need lots and lots of data, but not just a lots and lots of data, but quality data. So our high goal is we want to be the biodata generator for biodata business.
So how do you get that data then? Is it just, and the reason why it's scarce is just because it's maybe like they were not digital records of all the stuff in the past ones, or what's holding you guys back from
Well,
getting?
well, because we are really living in digital world, right? So whatever devices we have, once we measure something, that will be digitalized right away. The problem is that there's a DNA sequencing data, and there's a medical record, and there's something called biomarker in your body. Now we are targeting the third pillar, biomarker. So we have this patented technology called Versatile Smart Assay. We have 21 patents in US, Canada, China, and Europe. Now, this is really two words for commercial purposes. This gives you low cost and high speed. We can measure or detect biomarkers in your blood, or for that matter, in your body, very efficiently using our technology.
Is that helping you, like, guys diagnose things faster, like in a way that's, for example, you don't have to go through symptoms before you find out the issue? You can find out what people are predicted for. Is that what you guys are doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Gotcha. So you can.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I mentioned this on the last podcast. I was watching an episode of Piers Morgan last night, and Piers Morgan was talking about an ailment that a commonly known person, Jordan Peterson, is going through right now, that it's been very difficult for the doctors to undiagnose or to be able to diagnose this major ailment that he's going through right now. And they had another guy, one of my favorite podcast hosts, Chris Williamson, who runs the Modern Wisdom podcast. It's one of my favorite ones. But they had a guy named Gary Brecka on there, and Gary Brecka is the board of directors and the chair for Robert F. Kennedy team, who's helping him do all the research and stuff. And he was literally talking about the biomarker aspect, and utilizing the utilization of AI to put like 33 trillion variables into AI and it be able to diagnose and uncover all of those different things. And he was literally talking about multiple trillion variables being able to place into AI and use AI to be able to break that down. And I mean, I never heard of that concept until last night, but that literally was what I was listening to last night. It sounds so similar to maybe what you guys are doing, which is the utilization of or building a platform that would allow all of the different research, studies, data, analytics to be able to put into that super high value data resource and be able to multiply and calculate that data correctly. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we are shooting for, right? So we're not the company who is doing that AI training or something like that, but rather to do that, like you said, like trillions of the data and data columns and data markers and so on, they need data, right, in the first place. So we are generating that biomarker.
Yeah, I think me and Matt are just very happy that we understood everything you said to the point where
I did not expect to understand it. I was thinking, for whatever reason, like, when we first started talking, the person that went to my brain was, what was that other, like, not Bill Gates, but the Apple CEO, the female version of her, the female version of her that's in jail right now for doing something.
Oh, yeah. I know who it is. Elizabeth Holmes.
Elizabeth Holmes. Yeah, I was thinking, like, that sounds like the way you could sell me on what you're doing is probably the way Elizabeth Holmes sold a bunch of people on her bullshit. But so Sunghee, I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. And I think that it's a vital part. Now, what I've always been curious by, and maybe you can give me some insight. Right. I've been very lucky that nobody within my family has been really struck hard with a cancer. Okay. But I think that there's a statistic that like 1 in 2 people have or have somebody in their immediate family who has cancer. Like 1 in 2 people in America. And maybe I'm off a little bit. But the impact that cancer has had and the lack of ability to diagnose it, identify it, look at whether that's the genes, the biology, the things built in you or the things that you're consuming that's causing it. To me, it's crazy that we haven't yet been able to solve or at least identify cancer. Right. Is that something that your technology is moving us towards, like the ability to have better solutions for major life-threatening sicknesses like cancer?
Yeah. So I was thinking, like, Matt, you're like my mind reader. That's exactly what I'm doing. So yeah, so we are doing this the joint development with one of the largest general hospitals in Korea right now, and we are targeting cancer biomarker detection. So we call it multiplexing cancer biomarker detection technology. That's what we have, and what this means is this, right? I mean, even though we want to only consider humanity, humans, and so on, but money matters, right? I mean, it's what it takes to diagnose or do the test for people or something like that. So here's the scenario. So in Korea, probably this is kind of random number, but not very off, right? So let's say we have the 6 different types of cancers, so pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, and so on. So let's say to test a cancer biomarker for each cancer, it costs like $50, right? Then people say, okay, I only have $100, so I'll choose this and that. So say people only do the diagnosis with the 2 things. We are developing multiplexing biomarker detection technology, meaning that we can detect multiple biomarkers at the same time. That means, like I said, low cost and high speed. So for example, we can say you can test 6 different types of cancers markers only for $130 or something like that. Then this means that people can diagnose their cancer early on. So you know how, early detection is critical. It's way easier to cure people in early stage than later and so on, right? And then this means a lot of saving, like in terms of public health and the government money and so on.
Yeah, I mean, that's great.
Does that make sense? Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely, is to be able to, it sucks to have to say like, hey, I want to get checked for cancer, but I only can pick 2 cancers that I might have versus the other 7 that I could have. And I think that hurts a lot of people within that. So what are some of the? Obviously, I want to know about your idea and how you came up with this in general, and then what are some of your bottlenecks that you're having within your business right now on the entrepreneurial side in order to grow it to where you want to be?
Before we get there, I don't want to move off of this because a couple of other things I want to ask you about before we
Right.
get to the bottlenecks. I think that's important.
Right.
And keep in mind, we are a business-based podcast, but there's things you're talking about that are interesting to me. So I want to touch a little deeper. One of the things I heard that guy, Gary Brecka, say is that obviously everybody's heard of CRISPR. Matt, have you heard of CRISPR before? No. So CRISPR is the ability to edit genes prior to birth. So you can go into, and China's been doing this for many years and probably many other countries other than China, but you can go in and you can identify certain gene modifications in utero to be able to adjust, if you want to make a kid be 6'5" or have blonde hair or have blue eyes, there's genes that you can adjust to be
I think
able
I saw
to
something like that for like Down syndrome. They're testing that among taking out the gene for Down syndrome.
Yeah, that's
right?
the most immediate, easy problem to solve. But what it inevitably turns into is having a bunch of 6'5" people that have, that's what it will ultimately be. But what Gary was talking about yesterday was the ability to not just necessarily modify genes, but detect those genes at birth to be able to understand then how to supplement and do that. And he made a statement yesterday that I thought was crazy, but he said, if you are lucky enough as a human to live 5 more years, then you will now likely be able to live until you're 150. Do you believe in that?
Do I believe that?
Do you believe that? If you can last 5 more years, let's just extend that to 10 more years.
Gotcha. Right.
Look at the way Sunghee looks right now.
I know.
He'd be 150 years old and would only look 10 years older.
Yeah, I've been right about many of my predictions about future, and I was also at the same time wrong about many predictions too. But I don't know, right? But if I have to choose, then I don't think we are ready yet. But who knows, right?
Yeah, and he was talking about the reverse aging of somebody my age. I'm 42 years old. So within 5 years, they're going to have therapies and things that you can do that will then reverse age and then will supplement things back in. I mean, obviously, we've seen the evolution of peptides come across the medical facility. And I'm a firm believer in why things aren't advancing where they are is because of the limitations inside of our U.S. government. And maybe you don't want to go too deep into that, but I have worked under the premise that we've not solved cancer because the insurance industries, the medical industries, those don't want us to solve them because there's so much money in treating cancer instead of solving it. Right. And I'm not confident that our government is willing to allow us to have access to peptides, which are attempting to ban or continue to ban in our country because it's not something that can be placed inside of a pharmaceutical company and sold at a major profit. And so I think our limitation is going to be around our American government. But you had mentioned you work with a Korean program as well. And I was interested to see if outside of America, do they have less of those bureaucracy limitations because it's less of a corrupt capitalism system?
Well, first, a disclaimer, I'm not really expert in that area. In lots of ways, the Korean government is more strict on regulations. So for that, yeah. But Matt, I really want to mention about, I comment on your, what you said about the cancer and so why we cannot conquer the cancer yet and something. So I think really, it's a really good question, and we really have to step back and see the big problem. Like I will not talk about, but this is a really scientific explanation as to why we are not conquering cancers yet, right? Ready?
Yes.
So it's evolutionary theory, right? If you guys believe
Please.
evolution, right? People have evolution for hundreds of thousands of years for the longest time, right? And the human life expectation, if you think, it was really slowly increasing, like for tens of thousands of years and so on. But then for the last 100 years, it spiked because of the invention of chemical fertilizers and amazing progress of medical technology or medical science and so on. So what I'm saying is that humans' DNA makeup is never meant for living more than 50 or 60 years in average. So in 100 years ago, we died generally, most of the people died before they get cancers. And if some people live really long, like until 80 years old or something like that, probably they didn't even know that it was cancer, but that they died. And also same thing for the Alzheimer. So thought experiment, right? If you put your brain in some air and then just last it for 1,000 years, it will eventually rot, right? And it will be going bad. But it's only a matter of time. At some point of time, your brain will not function properly. It's only a matter of time. Now, so you cannot just function properly forever. There gotta be some time that they start deteriorating. I think it's really ironically, but we live too long all of a sudden, ironically, thanks to the blessing of medical technology.
So
does that make sense?
It does, and let me just play devil's advocate in regards to like where we modify that. Does the brain fall apart or lose its value over time because of overuse or because of lack of the things that it needs to maintain being strong? I think of my skin, right? So my skin had a lot more collagen in it when I was younger, so it was significantly more elastic. And as you get over the age of 40, you stop doing that. At the age of 40, the average man's testosterone levels deplete down drastically, which starts the aging process. The muscle mass is not able to maintain and all those things. So if we understand what causes the brain to diminish over time, that increases the likelihood of Alzheimer's, what causes the cancers, and then we can either supplement or minimize those things. Does the brain have to lose value over time? Do the muscles have to go down over time? Organically, naturally, they do if we let our life live unaided by medicine and modern technology. But I mean, you think of how many heart attacks there are right now. I would imagine in the next 30 to 40 years, they will be able to just remove the actual physical heart and have a robotic heart pushing your blood through your body. And I think that your consciousness might even, I mean, if you listen to Joe Rogan, which is where I actually heard that Go robotic AI thing beating the Go expert. But if you listen to him, he fundamentally believes that you'll download your consciousness into an AI external thing so that your physical body is not where your age starts and stops, but your consciousness is your life, not your physical body. So the problems of these bones and skin and your physical body is the limitation to survive longer, but your consciousness could stay alive longer if it sat in another hosting environment.
Right. That's another whole area of philosophical questions, brain in a jar, Descartes, and so very good questions. So I'm not really, but what I'm trying to say is really simple. I think nothing lasts forever, right? As long as it's material, it's whether whether it's the skin, it's organs, and so on. Unless, like you said, you replace the whole thing with a new organoid or something like the artificial heart, artificial liver, lung, and so on.
Yeah.
And even if you do that, it will not last forever.
Sure.
That's the surest thing. So that's what I was kind of saying. So what I'm saying is that if you just think in a big picture, right? The modern medical technology science is blessing. We live way longer, and the way we live, living standards and so on, it's
Quality.
good.
Yeah.
It's just that the DNA makeup of human, time span, evolutionary time span is hundreds of thousands of years. It can never, it's just not, it
Can't keep
cannot
up.
catch up with it. Yeah. And it's only natural that we have this problem. Now, back in like 30 years ago, I talked with my grandmother and so on. In Korea, probably here too, we're talking about like, if someone died at what age, like, so how long that person lived, that was an issue. Nowadays, nobody talked about how long, right? But rather, like we were talking about, like you said, he was suffering from cancer. He was suffering from Alzheimer before he died. So live longer is not really as critical as before because we all live long until, like even life expectancy, someone says it's 100 years old later or something like that. Now, so what matters now, I think, is quality of life. We need to live happily while we live. So that's what Erudio Bio is really focusing on. I think that's the way that true happiness can be obtained by a human.
Yeah, I don't think it matters like how long it takes necessarily. I mean, I guess it does in a sense of how long
Right.
until you die. But like, what do you die of, and how was your last years of life?
The
If you
quality
die
of life. Yeah.
when you close your eyes at night and you just happen when you're really old and you close your eyes and you pass away peacefully, that's I think how everyone would rather die than
Yeah.
be suffering from some kind of cancer or some kind of disease until that point.
Right.
Let me ask
So,
this one last question, and there's two things I'll add to, and I'm going to actually pose this question more to Matt. One of the other things that I think is not talked about enough when we talk about the extension of our length of life, which is also the depleting birth rate that we have in our country, in our world, and they talk about the stability of how our society was built 50 years ago, where we had old people small, and then the younger it got, the bigger it was, and that younger crowd is what stabilized the older crowd. And what we're likely running into, and Matt, when you and I become in our age, is that we have such a depleting birth rate happening and such a depleting interest in our youth having kids, is that it'll be more like this, and it'll be more like a heavily weighted old population who's maybe healthy but not working and not mentally there, not physically there, but even less valuable there. So what I would ask you, Matt, is would you want to live to be 150 years if half of you was bionic, half of you wasn't the version of Matt that you were born with? And there's even a sense that Joe Rogan will go down this big conspiracy, is that what we think aliens are as extraterrestrial are just the super evolved version of humans. They are just the second version of the body. They are, sexless beings. They are big heads, big brains, but no muscle, no mass. And it's just an external version of consciousness, long-term more evolved. So Matt, if you had the ability to make the decision, you could stay living till 150. Would you do so?
It's funny because we had a long time ago when my wife was working for a couple of attorneys, he brought up this issue before. He was like, yeah, I just feel like older people now are living and are keeping them alive when they should just, pass away and let the older, at least say the resources for people. I was like, that's easy to say when you're not there. It's easy to say that, because, what do we want most is more time with our loved ones. And I think 150 years of more time with our loved ones, yes, but if your loved ones aren't there, like, would you care to live 150 years old into 150 years anymore if the people you care about aren't there anymore? So I don't have an answer for that necessarily. I think I could tell you all day long, no, I want to die. Once I get a little older, I want to just pass away and let it go on. But then you would miss out on more time with your children and your grandchildren and who else on that. So I don't have an answer for that. And for me right now, would I want to be bionic? No. Like, I don't think I want to be where I'd just be a computer necessarily or not. But I don't know. Who knows? I would rather to move on. What do you think, Sunghee?
I think your answer was perfect. Good answer.
Yeah.
But
So Matt,
I am about the same. Yeah.
Matt, I cut you off earlier as you were adjusting towards maybe some bottlenecks and some areas inside of the business that Sunghee has faced. I mean, Sunghee, to me, it's undeniable in the amount of time you built this, what you built it to be. And we haven't gone deep into kind of what your business is about and kind of all of these people that are grants that you have and people that are investing into you and do your research. And I think that's great. But I would love to know, maybe starting with, what were your challenges when you started what you started and kind of where you are to get to where you are today?
Yeah, it's a kind of easy, and this is kind of startup one-on-one type of thing and so on, right? I think technology. Oh, by the way, my co-founder and myself, we are Stanford alumni, which means that we are studying the electrical engineering. But why all of a sudden biotech, right? But the thing is, my co-founder, who is majored in EE, at the end of his PhD years, he double majored in biochemistry too, and during his postdoc years, he researched on this thing, and he came up with this patent idea, right? So our technology is not just some liquid-based like most pharmaceutical companies develop, but rather we have this semiconductor, right? And then we have a bunch of holes, and the diameter of each hole is 1 micrometer, which is 1,000th of 1 millimeters, and so on. And then we applied electrical field, and we used something called dynamic force spectroscopy. That's why, compared to our competitors in the market, our accuracy is really great, even though we are measuring multiple biomarkers at the same time. So to answer your question, Matt, so I'm always saying that technology differentiation is absolute necessary condition for a startup company. If they don't have technology and they want to do some stuff, unless it's something else, and it's I don't think it will take a chance. Even though it's absolute necessary condition, it's so far from sufficient condition. You can spectacularly failed with perfect technology, right? You know what I'm saying. Business is just selling your product. That was the hardest part. So we have 21 patents. We have amazing technology nobody can match and so on. But to find the right market. So initially we said our custom pillars are 4. 1, general hospitals or just the hospital. 2, pharmaceutical companies. We can, boost up the drug discovery speed or something like that. 3, the institutions called the CLOs or just the general research centers or research labs of the university. 4, government and so on, right? So for the business development part, we have this versatile smart assay method. We can detect multiple biomarkers at the same time, low cost and high speed and so on. But what's the right market for it? So for the right market, people need to want it. And the second, the market should be scalable. So we're finally targeting health clinic center where most people nowadays, for the obvious reasons and the reasons we just mentioned, people really wondered about and scared about the possibility of contracting cancers, right? That's why we are shooting for this specific market. So it was kind of hard, and we failed several times because we couldn't find the market fit and the right business model. But I think we are on the right track finally right now, because we are rejected by so many hospitals. But finally, we got this, and then we are really hoping that we can get kind of approval from Korean version of FDA next year and start making revenue next year.
I think
So-
it's an important thing that you said is that you can have an amazing technology, one of the best one out there, but you have to make sure you narrow down on the business side of things about how you get this thing to the market and to the right
Exactly.
people. So you're
Right.
talking about like clinics and stuff like that. I mean, I'm guessing how you would sell your product is by saying like, hey, this is what we can do for your clients and your patients that you come in here. So you would have them do whatever you need to do, I don't know, do a swab or whatever to get their DNA and however you need it, and then they would send it off to you and your company, and your company would get the results and send it back. Is that what you're looking at? How
Well,
your sales
actually,
process
it's not what it is. So when when I am doing the IR pitch to investors, people being reminded of Elizabeth Holmes, it has 2 sides.
Yeah.
People immediately understand our technology, but they linked us to the scam or the fraud.
Yeah. Yeah.
So initially, my strategy was, oh, you know what? My co-founder was bad liar, so we can never cheat you or something like that. The longer it takes, I found somehow all of a sudden someday I just it came to me, right? The major difference between Elizabeth Holmes and Iridio Bio is they're saying B2C business and we are B2B.
Okay.
Meaning, Elizabeth Holmes says that with a drop of the blood, you can test everything as safely, Walmart or something like that. we cannot do it. So we need equipment installed in hospitals, very controlled environment. And not drop of blood, but some blood, like at least 3 millimeters liters of blood or something like that. And then, so we are doing B2C business.
So
So
they
very
buy
controlled
they
environment.
buy
And
the machine, they buy the machine, and then you teach them how to use the machine in regards to collection of the thing that you need to test, and then they test it, and then they can analyze from those tests once they have the machine, right? So it's a one-time
yeah,
buy, and it's theirs. You teach them how to use it, and it's theirs.
you're right, but I want to add that it's a kind of a laser blade model or printer cartridge or something. So they buy this machine. But like I said, we're selling this consumable semiconductor chips. So on the chip, you drop the blood and put it in the machine. And it's not much about the training or teaching. It's you just put it there and close the lid and you push some button and our software does the rest of the thing.
So being the fact that you said it's software, is all of that data, let's say you were to sell it to, let's just say 10,000 clinics throughout the world, okay? And you had 10,000 clinics utilizing this with hundreds of customers or hundreds of their patients a month. Would a part of your business, and maybe even the most valuable part of your business, would be the data collection side behind the scenes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right on that. Right.
So the
So
front end
now-
side helps the individual patient diagnose their problem for the clinic to be able to provide that. So the value is to get in as many clinics as possible, as cheap and as affordable for the clinics to be able to have it, so that you can have more patients running their data through that, so that the broader data elements you have that you can then sell to companies and or businesses who would then use that data to build products, right?
Yes, exactly. And you're right. You're sounds like really expert in this area. I'm serious about
Never
this.
done it, never thought about it. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna give you Sunghee. You explaining things to us is
Correct.
because we were worried at the beginning, like the way the big terms you're using and things like that. We're like, all right, we're gonna be lost in this. But you explain things in a very well way, very well manner
Thank you.
to help us understand this. So I
Thank you,
appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
So this business, what Matt Uber just mentioned, and you Matt too, is not something we created. So the really good part of this business is already exists. We're not creating new market. So do you guys know Mayo Clinic in US?
Yeah.
And Tempus, have you heard about that? So those two companies or institutes are the ones who are in upfront, the front runner of this business, meaning that they are letting doing this business. As soon as Matt, you mentioned about the patient's data, it immediately brings up the privacy issues and regulations of government and so on. So I think anonymization is what Mayo Clinic uses. Disclaimer, I don't know exactly how they do it, but by doing it and with proper regulation releases or something like that, they're doing the business in the US right now. I know that, like I said, South Korea, they have stricter regulations always. So this is not easy business in terms of that. The Korean government, especially new administration, they know that importance of the AI development and so on. And I know that the government is more progressive than before. And I know they begin changing or modifying these regulations so that business owners like me have easier time. And so I'm really hoping for that direction. I'm kind of not 100%, but 70% sure that government will move in that direction. I know that. That's why I'm kind of betting on this. And of course, as a small startup company like us, we cannot possibly do this ourselves, right? So we are making partnership with various companies. Like there is some company in Korea. I'm sorry that I cannot tell you the name, but it's like Mayo Clinic. It's like Tempus. And we already start talking about the technical partnership with them. They have the biodata platform, everything. We are generator and provider, even like distribution of our equipment. They may be a good distributor, or we are just talking about that. So in terms of the business, and having said that, this is kind of digression, but anyway, so even if I said our technology is a semiconductor and like magic, like detecting biomarker or something like that, right? Nothing works like that. We are, even if I said semiconductor, we rely on biological and chemical reactions between antibody and antigen, or antibody and biomarkers.
Mhm.
So we rely on their interactions. So meaning that we need antibody to develop our product and so on. So we are partnering with some antibody providers. And like I said, we are based on semiconductor technology. So we are technically and strategically partnering with the semiconductor manufacturers and so on.
So let me
So
ask you this, how do you get yourself into more clinics? I think so. Look, I come with a sales background. I come with a business development
Right.
background. It sounds like that's probably, at least based off of my original answer, that might be your biggest obstacle that is outside of your maybe kind of bread and butter, right? It sounds like you and maybe your co-founder are the thought leaders, the technical experts, but how do you get into more clinics? Is that your biggest obstacle right now?
Matt, just to know that I'm not trying to make you feel better, but it is true. You asked just right questions. Thank you. No, I met lots of investors, right? And then I learned that there are some good questions and bad questions, but I really loved. So it's a really critical question you just asked because we pondered upon that for the longest time because it's really critical. So for that, actually, I think I can open the name of the hospital. I think it's everywhere. So we are joint developing this thing with Seoul National University. Have you heard about that? It's the
No.
best university in Korea. Seoul
Okay.
National University General Hospital. We are co-partnering with them. So not only we want their help, support, technically, medically, and so on, but the important thing is their reputation. So for example, once this press release gone, like Seoul National University General Hospital successfully developed this thing with a radio bio and so on, then players in the market will know that this works with a Korean version of FDA approval and so on. So that's our strategy. But we are not, of course, depending on that thin thought only, right? I talk to people, many players in other hospitals, and this time I cannot name the hospitals, but lots of head of hospitals, lots of other hospitals says that if you can show that your result with that Seoul National University General Hospital, will buy the product or
Yeah.
something like
Some
this.
case
So you
studies.
got it's
That's our strategy.
credibility. It's just adding credibility onto what you guys are doing. So I think
Exactly.
you guys. I'm gonna guess you guys are looking at venture capital funding. You guys have already had it. One of the big things you probably have to do is obviously show the credibility or what you're gonna do with the exit strategy, but how you're gonna sell it, how you're gonna create revenue, how you're gonna get the money back. So this is
Right,
kind
right.
of the starting stages for you guys on that. Is partnering with the right people, getting the name out there, then understanding how we can sell it. And is the goal to get more funding for what you guys are doing, or do you already have the funding enough to cover what you guys are running?
So for now, we have a pretty much good money, right? So we successfully raised the seed funding in Silicon Valley last year. So, but we are hoping that we really hope that we can raise our valuation from 20 million right now to say above 40 million, hopefully 50 million or something like that, by showing the market that we can actually making revenue in the market by the end of next year. So we're shooting for Series A funding at the end of the next year, 10 mil or 20 mil or something like that.
So I would assume then, Sunghee, that one of the next big obstacles would be bringing in a person who's revenue generated beneficial to you guys, right?
Right.
I would see probably somebody who's medical sales, pharmaceutical sales, somebody who has an internal medical network that could put you in front of as many clinics as
Right.
possible. That would be the ideal addition to your team to turn a great idea into revenue, right? That's kind of the next
Right.
step.
So I told you, you asked the right questions
Yeah,
on
thank
and
you.
on. No, I'm really serious. So, for example, during the last my business trip to Seoul, I exactly met such people who has been working in that area, like medical equipment selling area for 30 years. And so I'm meeting those guys for the business development for distribution. So of course we need to, laser focusing on successful development of this thing, right? Getting approval from FDA. That's the number one priority. But like you just pointed out, just making product that doesn't do anything, right? So we need to sell it and distribution and so on. So one solution, you can say that we can hire those people, sales, marketing, and so on, right? So we are still pondering upon this issue. Can we really like manage them? And we can probably should hire really good head of marketing, sales, and so on, then and so on. But second option would be like partnership with such company and so on. So we are leaning toward a little bit toward the second option right now, but
Sure.
we'll see what will happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm Matt's going to say this. I talk about this in every podcast we go on. There's a book behind me called "Who Not How." It's basically finding the right people to help you get to where you need to go to versus you having to spend all your time learning that. And what you said was, I think, one of the biggest issues that people have, especially if they take the first route you said, which is hiring your own team of people, learning how to manage those teams and how to run those teams. Me and Matt have kind of ran into that issue within our business where we're building an AI product for us. We don't know how to manage developers and speak developer language, and for the most part. And so that is something we ran into. We've hired the developers and the team of people that we have. But one of the things we're running into is like, hey, I don't know how to speak with you in the right way. I don't know how to make sure I give you all the requirements you need to build this AI out. I don't know how to do all that. And I think you're probably running the same bottleneck is I don't know how to speak the sales language and run the sales team and have them motivated to keep going and selling. And I don't think you have this problem necessarily, but we meet a lot of people who are extremely smart like you and who are building something like that. They have a hard time selling that because you guys are so much into the deep knowledge of it that you over explain a lot of things that happen with it. I think maybe you're seeing the same thing. We have a lot of really smart people that come on there that when they talk and like, all right, you've lost the majority of people because the way you speak is above of what they can understand. So you obviously are looking right now, and the second option was to find somebody to come in, supplement that, understand how you guys are talking and what you guys speak to bring into people who need to buy and invest in this.
And see,
exactly.
my advice would be different, the opposite of what Matt just said. And Matt and I are kind of going through a little bit of this now where we have an area of expertise within our business.
Gotcha.
Look, man, I learn a lot from social media. I learn a lot from the algorithm in which that feeds me. And one of the things that the algorithm that feeds me and the people that I follow around business and growth, which is you should bring somebody in that you don't have to tell them what to do. You tell them, here's my problem. They tell you how they're going to solve it. You say, we have a great product. We have a product that works. I need more revenue. And then you shut up and let them tell you, here's how I will go get you revenue. But I firmly believe that you always get more actionable results bringing somebody who has ownership, equity, and a stake in the success of your business that's not an external company that you're partnering with. I think that you'd be better off finding that chief revenue officer who has equity and value and stake in the success of your business and catching the way it needs to. I think that will make you significantly more valuable and profitable in your valuation over time.
I just changed my mind a bit. Matt, if my company go jackpot, then it's probably 50% of the contribution is from what you just said. I totally no. I'm serious. I
I'll
totally
send you my
agree with
bank
you.
account information.
Ownership.
You can donate down the road. Okay.
The ownership. That's I've been work for Samsung Electronics for the longest time, right? Then Amazon, the big company, and then last company was my startup, and this is my startup, right? So when I tell people if I work for Samsung and Amazon, I was working to make the owner of the company richer.
Yes.
Now I'm work for making myself richer and so on. So, and then I also say people that if someone tell them to get the ownership without making them the owner, that's a bullshit. That's what I always telling people, right? So giving them right equity and making them real owner and asking ownership. I think
and on
that's
revenue side, Sunghee, you'll find it on revenue side. Good salespeople don't need a salary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Good
that.
salespeople are completely comfortable saying how I will put money in my pocket is selling. So you can go to the market with a revenue leader, a guy who has built organizationals, taken a product and put it in to clinics and say, you are an equity only partner. And the way you make money is make revenue because our objective is we need to go from a $40 to $60 million evaluation. And when you can help us bring enough revenue to turn our revenue from $40 to $60 million, then we will give you a percentage of that revenue, of that growth.
Right.
That you will find far less restriction on a salesman, a revenue leader to be willing to do that than you will on somebody in the development side or the IT side or the product side who's so used to being paid a salary for their education or a salary for the resume. Us salespeople are willing to go bet on ourselves like an entrepreneur. So if you can bring in an entrepreneur, revenue generating leader who stands next to you in the business, whose goal is to take it from 40 to 60. And when he gets it to 60 or above, then he has a percentage of that growth. They'll eat that up. If I knew anything about your industry, if I had any experience and you came to me and offered that to me, I'd eat that up. I don't have any knowledge of your industry or your business, and I wouldn't even have any clue how to bring it to the market, but I would
Right.
eat that up.
Right. What it told me is a universal truth, regardless of the areas, I think. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, man. I almost feel like I'm doing this podcast to get the advice from.
Look, these
Thank you.
best
I mean,
podcasts are conversations.
it
They
just
are
hit me. It makes
your
perfect sense to me. Right.
Absolutely. And look, and I say this genuinely, once again, I am an idiot compared to the people you're in the rooms with. And compared to you, you are 10 times more educated, knowledgeable.
Well, I don't.
No, you are. I'm very uneducated, to be honest. I don't find myself to be unintelligent, but I'm uneducated. But the point in me saying that is I have been around the block a little bit. Matt has been around the block a little bit. If there's any way we can help you, give you a different perspective, then don't hesitate to ask. Well, like, I think the most important thing that we do this podcast for is to get to know important people, to get to know intelligent people, successful people, so that we can learn. And I know that, and I'm glad that you've learned a thing or two from Matt and or from myself today, but we've learned as much, if not more, from you. And the number one reason why we do this is to broaden our professional network.
I see.
And to have more people that we know in different places, in different times, to sometimes connect us with them, to sometimes connect this person with that person, and to make those connections. Because I think the thing that's most overlooked in business is your professional network and having a strong professional network. And Matt, that's something him and I talk about all the time. And it's something that I wish somebody taught me earlier in business, because for the first 20 years of my professional career, I thought everything about was about how much will a company pay me and who can teach me something that helps me. But Matt has changed my mindset drastically, which is give as much free information as possible, help as many people around you. And through that, everything will come out in that process. And I know it's been a challenge for me because Matt consistently says, just put out informative educational content and everything else will come out. And it's been a big lesson learned. Matt, what do you think about that?
Those are all from books that I'm reading behind me. The Go Giver book is what I learned from that. Give as much as possible. Just give and give and give, and things will come back to you. Like whether you expect it to or not, things will happen. And the Who Not How book, if you haven't read that, Sunghee, I really recommend that. It's finding the right person instead of, because me and Matt, like we said, we had the AI business, we have a marketing business, and those are things that we're not experts in. And Matt said a little while before us, he was like, hey, I want to go buy some marketing books, or I learn a bunch of on this marketing. I know it's not, the books is not what you're going to do, but learn a bunch about marketing to get an expert. I'm like, Matt, by the time you become an expert in it, it's already advanced 5 years ahead of you again. So like, don't spend the time doing that. Find somebody who can supplement that weakness you have to come into your business and help you grow it faster. And so that's what Matt's, when you said you had the opposite advice as me, but I think it's the exact same advice. It's just finding that person that can help you grow instead of you trying to be that person to help it grow.
Right.
Help you out a lot.
Exactly. I think that makes a perfect sense. And what you guys do really matters, I think. Because I thought, one time I thought that, there are a bunch of books about the startup, right? Lean Startup by Reese and 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel and so on. So everything is written or something like that. People have experienced this hundreds of times. And then it feels like we should be able to do this by reading these books and so on. But this repeat on and on, right? I mean, people need advice on and on. So I think what you do, Matt, you too, Matt, connecting people and getting advice and learning from each other, I think is still critical, and it will be critical forever. I think that's what you guys do. And now I finally see it at the end of this podcast.
Yeah. And to that point, first off, Sunghee, I appreciate you jumping on. It has made my brain think about things that I've never had to think about before, but I love this exercise and I love what you're doing. I'm excited to see what you're doing continue to advance in so many different places and so many different areas. As I said before, if there's any part Matt and I or our network can play, don't ever hesitate to ask, and we'll help where we can. As we kind of wrap this part up, is there any final words you want to say to kind of take us home?
Well, I never. Okay, let me think. Okay, no, thanks for having me today. And like I said, oh yeah, thank you. I generally don't be too boastful about myself, my company, and so on. I was educated in an Asian country. Humbleness was a virtue always. But I want to say this. So, do you know the Bill Gates, the guy who are
Yeah,
rich?
I heard him once or twice. I think I've heard that name. Yeah.
He said he recently announced that for the rest of his life, he will just release every fortune that he has, which accounts to 200 billion bucks or something like that for the next 20 years and so on. As a part of that effort, Erudio Bio got from Gates Foundation annual $1 million grant recently. Yeah, so Rudio Bio as for-profit company, of course, our purpose is making profits, but this proves that at the same time, our technology does good to humanity. So, it's weird that right after that we receiving the reward, we became more humanitarian.
Yeah.
So when you talk about of course, the purpose is earning money, right? But at the same time, what can we do to make people's life better, right? Like I said, quality of life and so on. If we can develop this technology or that technology and it's the same thing, then probably for that decision making, we'll probably choose the one which can do better for humanity and so on. So that's my last word.
I love it. That was good. You guys, if you learn as much as me and Matt did on this podcast, have you followed along with as well as Sunghee explained everything for us? Thank you so much for that.
No
Please like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the bell icon. We drop these episodes every Friday at 9 o'clock. You'll start seeing more clips of Sunghee before it comes out. So we'll make sure we get that out to you. And we'll link all your information to Sunghee in the social media channels, so that way people can reach out to you, learn more about your company, what you guys are doing. When you guys get it, more clinics can use your product and be excited about the benefits you guys give them in humanity too. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Okay.
Sunghee. Have a great day, bye.
Thank you very much for having me. Matt Uber, Matt Walton. Thank you.